All right, folks, we're back for the second game of our doubleheader from the Final Four. Michigan takes down Arizona in, dare I say, easy fashion.
Yeah, easy.
91-73 in a game, Tom, that I know I did not see coming. Did you see that coming?
We both picked Arizona. I think in our previews, we both said we wouldn't be shocked if Michigan won.
Hmm.
I'm shocked that they won in this fashion. You're probably not
Yeah.
shocked after you watch that 40 minutes of basketball, because Michigan played the best game of their season when they needed it most. But yeah, I'm shocked they won in the manner that they won it today.
Yeah, they were phenomenal today. I mean, up and down the court. I love that they brought the physical fight to Arizona. To start off the game, right? Michigan was hot right away. Those first 5 minutes, they absolutely dominated Arizona. I mean, they dominated Arizona all game, but then as the first half kept going, Arizona did go on. I think they went on like a 9-0 run, so they were hanging around for a little while. And of course, Lendenborg, right? He came out of the game early. He got two quick fouls early in the game. He was out of the game within the
Five
first 2 minutes.
seconds.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then came back in the game a little later on, and he ended up getting looked like it was an ankle injury.
They said
Um,
ankle and a sprained MCL.
yeah, okay.
He impacted him. I'm sure we'll get into it, but he was hobbling around, limping around. It clearly impacted him in this game.
And the big story coming out of this game will be his status for the national championship game against UConn on Monday. But yeah, I mean, we were just talking before we went on air here. He only played 14 minutes, and it did not matter at all. I mean, Michigan got phenomenal games from Cadeau. Mara was incredible this game. I think he had a career high. He had 26 points, which they said was a career high for him. He's dunking. He's being physical with guys. There was one, I thought this one play symbolized the game perfectly. He basically got the ball. He scored underneath on a layup, and coming back up the court. I don't know who it was. I don't on Arizona. I don't know if it was Krivas or maybe it was Karchenkov. I don't know who it was, but he just like coming back up the court, just bulldozes the guy, knocks him over. And I'm just like, yo, this is how Michigan came to play. They came ready to come, and yeah, the entire team played really well. Cadeau played well. Mara played well. Johnson Jr. He played really well. I remember
Trey
we talked
McKinney off
about
the
it.
bench.
Yeah, we talked about it in our preview, right? I mean, my big storyline going into this game was like, how do you want to build your team? Do you want, the two different ways to build your team here? Michigan, with the transfer portal, they hit hard. They got all these guys in, juniors and
Experienced.
seniors. And then the freshmen on Arizona, right through the recruitment process, what was, and not that there's an incorrect way or a correct way to build your team. Both teams got to the Final Four, but which team was going to overcome the other to win the game. And Michigan, those upperclassmen, man, they came in to fight, and they buried these freshmen from Arizona, man. Absolutely phenomenal performance from these guys.
Yeah, I you have to give a lot of credit to Dusty May. In our preview, we talked about how Arizona struggles to shoot from outside, really outside of the free throw line. Three in just before you reach the paint, they really just struggle to hit jump shots. And Michigan just said, "You're not going to score in the paint against us." I hope at some point we get a heat map and we can see how many times there were more than three Michigan players in and around the basketball when it was in the painted area. I'm sure on the defensive side of the floor, it was a vast majority of the time. Michigan told Arizona, "You are not going to score in the paint. And if you do, it's going to be a war." And they walled up, whether it was Mara, whether it was, I thought Johnson was unbelievable for this basketball team in the first half when Landerberg went out with foul trouble. And then he got hurt. They needed him to really step up and contribute. And he did that. Defensively, I thought they were unbelievable. They dared Arizona to beat them with jump shots, and Arizona didn't until Arizona was sick of getting hit, and then they settled for the jump shots and they couldn't make them. So I thought Dusty May and co. had a spot on, flawless scout on how to deal with this. And then, yeah, we talked about the experienced players, the kind of more veteran, older guys versus these younger guys, and they just beat Arizona up. I mean, there were bodies on the floor all over in this basketball game, and the Michigan guys just looked like they hopped right up. And this has
Yeah.
been Michigan basketball all year. This is how they play. They want to play this level of physicality all the time. And Arizona just wasn't ready for it. And Arizona in the first half had the foul advantage too. They got to the line. They got what they wanted. They got fouls. They got important Michigan guys in foul trouble. They missed a bunch of free throws. And then Michigan just cashed in on the opposite side of the floor.
Yeah, I mean, even looking at some of the numbers here, so I'm looking at the team stats here. I mean, Michigan shot 44% from 3, man. I mean, that's without even going into the paint. I mean, you face a team shooting 44% from 3, your chances of beating them, especially that Michigan team, which doesn't rely on threes, they really don't. And then they also shot just from the field 48%, so it's almost 50% from the field you're shooting there, which is phenomenal. So, points in the paint actually were tied for the game. Each team did have 36 points, but really the big story in the game also was the points off the turnovers. So Arizona turned the ball over 14 times. Michigan capitalized with 26 points off those turnovers. 13 Michigan turnovers. Arizona got 12 points off those turnovers. But yeah, that was another big deal in the game too, especially early in the game, how much Arizona was turning over the ball, which is really out of the ordinary for them. And of course, it got to the point where the largest lead in the game was Michigan by 30, and Michigan ends up winning by 28 points here. So as we look ahead a little bit here, Michigan getting ready to go into the national championship game on Monday against a UConn team that, like I said, they did look really good today. Especially defensively, as you harped on earlier when we were going over that a recap of that game against Illinois, and they were what did you say? What's the early spread on that
It's
game? Is
six
there
and a half. Michigan is giving 6.5, so they're the
Michigan giving
favorite.
6.5? And I don't. I'll put you on the spot. You were talking about maybe you were leaning towards UConn there, huh, on the spread.
Yeah, if we're gonna talk spread, I just think that's a lot of points for a UConn team that they played this Arizona team to a nail biter early in the year without two of their best players. So I mean, I just think from a spread standpoint, that's a lot of points to give, and I get it. I am sure that line will move. I would not be shocked if a lot of money comes in on UConn these first couple hours, and that line moves a little bit. But I mean, listen, two incredibly physical basketball teams. Like this is going to be a war. Landenberg's health is the biggest question mark of this
Right.
basketball game. If he can play, I think when you look at Johnson and when you look at Landenberg, they are the two mismatches for UConn in terms of UConn doesn't play with a natural four. They play with the two wings and then the two guards and then Reed. Reed versus Mara is going to be an awesome battle.
Right.
I think these are the two best centers the other one is going up against all season. And yeah, Reed went up against Zuby Ejiofor, and Mara went up against some pretty good guys in the Big Ten, and even Krivas tonight, who I thought he got the better of tonight. But they're probably the two best to have faced each other. And then you look at Silas Demery versus Cadeau, and then it comes down to like Caravan and Mullins versus Lenderberg and Johnson. And when you just look at that now the way it is, you just feel there's a little bit of a matchup for Michigan with that size and physicality. For UConn, for me, they're gonna have to space the floor really well to get to create options for them at the rim, and they're gonna have to hit threes. And like I'm not taking shots at anybody here, but even with the potential Caravan Mullins versus Landenberg Johnson matchups, I still like the idea of Danny Hurley being like, all right, I'll find what those two struggle with and use it against them, and find a way to get the strengths of Mullins and Caravan versus those two. I just think back to St. John's and Bryce Hopkins and how big of a mismatch or how UConn struggled to handle him in those basketball games. And if Landenberg is healthy, which is a massive question mark at this point, they very much can use him in a very similar manner. And let's be honest, we talked about in the preview, like it was going to take somebody stepping up and playing really, really well in this basketball game for one of these teams to win. Ellie Kudo did that tonight. He had 13 points, 10 assists, 4 steals. He had 6 turnovers. A couple of them were late. He still does stuff to me that like would drive me crazy if I had to watch him a little bit. Like there are times he'll just throw a pass away or he takes a bad shot on a layup. But the fact of the matter is when he plays like he does tonight, he's the most important player on the floor for Michigan. And if he plays like that against UConn, he's a major, major X factor. So for as much as I like Demery, like that's going to be something that they have to focus on. If Michigan plays the way they did tonight, they share the ball, they can score inside, and they knock down their three. And something I talked about in our preview is they shoot 36% on the season, but every time I've watched Michigan, I feel they shoot better than that.
Mm.
So I know statistics say what they say. I can't argue the fact that they're 36% on the year, but I still think they shoot better than that. I just think they can beat you in a number of ways. So it's going to be a really, really interesting matchup Monday night.
Their ball movement was just
Yeah.
phenomenal tonight, the way they were passing the ball. 22 assists tonight overall. Cadeau, of course, had 10, but just absolutely phenomenal. They were moving the ball. And you know what? It's actually interesting. So I was watching some of the halftime show, and I was listening to Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith were on there talking about it. And it was funny. Charles was saying, since he's been doing the tournament, that this Michigan team probably one of the best teams he's seen. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, since I've been really following the tournament, I'd say probably, I mean, I'm an old man now at this point, right? I'm 36. So let's say, I guess over the past, I don't know, 25 some odd years, I started thinking about it. And I was like, this might be, I mean, they've beaten every team in this tournament. I mean, they've dominated these teams.
Yeah.
It hasn't been close. And I
Yeah.
started thinking about it. I'm like, this might be, at least from the tournament standpoint, and they only had three losses during the year. This
One
might
of
be
which was the
one of the
Duke.
best teams I've ever seen. I think I was thinking about it. I was like, maybe outside of really, and this is off the top of my head, really outside maybe that Kentucky team in 2012, right, with Anthony Davis and Michael
Yeah.
Kidd Gilchrist with Calipari coaching the team. This has to be one of the best teams I think I've seen in the tournament, this
Uh,
Michigan
and
team.
and it's funny, I think coming into this, if in our preview podcast, I probably put them as like third best team in it, right?
Mhm.
We thought Arizona was better than them. They
They were not.
demolished
Yeah.
Arizona. We thought Duke was better than them because they beat them earlier this year. It turns out they're probably not. Yeah, I mean, UConn had that team 3 years ago with Klingon and Caravan and Stephen
Mhm.
Castle and a lot of those dudes that I still think is one of the better college basketball teams I've watched in a while. I'd have to go back and look. This Michigan team, if they win on Monday night, is they're gonna be up there. Yeah, just to your point, 22 assists tonight. I mean, they are a team. They run that little screen and roll action, Namara. It is so impressive how well he finishes. Like one of the alley oops was thrown around his shoulders, and he caught it around his shoulders and still found a way to lay it up. Like for a guy that tall to be that coordinated is
Mhm.
impressive. They are a really good back cutting team. Cadeau finds these guys, and then once you start to collapse on it, as we saw tonight, if you then kick it and they hit their shots, they're really, really tough to beat. I do wonder if UConn's defense isn't anything they haven't seen this year, but just can slow them down a little bit. I do think this is a really fascinating final, probably way more than I thought. I think we expected UConn to be there and probably Arizona, and I would have looked at it and been like, Arizona just has a lot on offense. And now I look at it and go, just with the way these two teams defended tonight, I mean, I could see either team winning this basketball game. I think Michigan's a little deeper, but with Landenberg potentially not being 100%, I think that's a big factor. And there's a scenario in which UConn comes out in this game Monday night, and they're the team that shoots 43% from three. And if they do something like that, they absolutely can run Michigan off the floor. It should be a good one Monday night.
So what's your prediction for Monday? Who you going with here? Michigan or UConn?
I wanna go with the Big East. But I just think if I'm getting put on record on a podcast, I have to pick Michigan after I have to pick Michigan after tonight, right? It's not like one of these I can be like, "Well, I think this." I like if I gotta make a call that's gonna be on record, I think I have to go Michigan after tonight. They've played the 2 best teams in the country. They beat one by, what, 18 tonight?
Yeah.
And then they played the other one down the wire in a neutral game in the middle of the season. And they're from probably the best conference in basketball. So, yeah, I have to go Michigan. I have to go Michigan.
So I'm actually gonna go. I am gonna go Michigan. Let me point that out. I'm actually going to disagree with you with this 6 points. What was it? 5 points? Six
Six and a
points?
half.
6.5.
Let's see if
I
it's
like
moved
Michigan in this game.
as you're
I mean, of
talking.
course, right. Lundenborg, as we said, the big question mark. Honestly, I don't think it's gonna. I just think this Michigan team is that good. I think they're gonna win this game by,
Oh, up
I
to
don't know,
seven
8 or 9 points.
All
Six
the
and a
money's
half.
coming in on Michigan.
And I'll be rolling with those folks betting Michigan.
One other note, which Michigan played Illinois this year in Illinois in a game in late February. Michigan beat them at Illinois by 14. So just something. And again, who knows? Who knows how that game was officiated or whatnot.
Right, the time of the year and everything like
Yeah,
that. Who
late
knows what
late
these
in the
teams had going
year,
on?
a lot is not decided, but you got tired bodies by that point. These basketball seasons are long for these guys. They start in November, end in late in March, and both those teams, I think, thought they were going to make those runs. I mean, again, this is a basketball team that's lost 3 games this year. They lost
Right,
to Wisconsin at home by 3. They lost to Duke on a neutral court in February by 5, and they lost to Purdue.
right,
Not lost a lot of basketball games this year. UConn's in a similar boat, right? Lost to Arizona by 4 without their 2 best players, then lost to St. John's twice, and then lost to Marquette in a game at the end of the Big East season that I'm sure lost to Creighton and Marquette late in the year. I think they were a little tired and a little banged up by that point of the year. But yeah, I think this is gonna be a good game on Monday. If you like physical basketball, this is gonna be a physical game of 2 teams that just are going to get after it on the defensive side, and I love that style of basketball, so I'm all for it.
all right, folks. Thanks for joining us for the recap of the Michigan Arizona game. We'll be back on Monday night as soon as the Michigan UConn game goes final to recap that game and break it all down. So, thanks for joining us this evening. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks. Bye.